What's up, everybody? Subaru's fan here for Mustang Weekly Update number 62 on this Friday. So, what's new with the Mustang? Well, I'm always honest with you guys, and so I gotta say, I'm pretty stressed out. There's a lot of different factors adding into this stress, and it's a very complicated situation, but essentially, I've been having trouble getting this car to run right, and I didn't really realize it until just the past few days. I thought everything was fine. Of course, you guys know about, my discovery of LSPI, a couple of months ago, and not being able to go full throttle in 6th gear, and then of course, how the boost hoses were loose, and so that caused a rich condition, and so the car wasn't running right, and I couldn't figure it out for a while, and then I finally figured it out, so I've had these little things that have been mostly my fault, or just stupid things, nothing really bad about the car in general necessarily, but recently, like I said, I've been doing this Tune Plus with Adam. He's the best tuner out there for the Mustangs. His maps are phenomenal. I will eventually do a full review of his tune, but we've been having trouble. I've been doing logs, and we've been revising the tune, and normally with every other EcoBoost Mustang, he's done like 3 revisions and the car's been good, but mine, for whatever reason, does not want to play ball, and it has weird ignition corrections, and he said even the turbo spool is slightly weird on mine, and I don't know what's going on, because I have the intake back to stock, and as far as the engine goes, this car is stock aside from the one-step colder spark plugs, which were something that he recommended and everyone recommends, and I even spent a good chunk of my day today pulling out all the spark plugs, checking them to make sure everything was good, all the gaps were correct, they were installed properly, everything is, okay as far as that goes, and it is. So I don't know, what's going on, because this has been an off and on thing, and the car just does not, the car seems to drive fine. Like, I can do accelerations to red line, and it pulls well, and it's fast, and it drives totally fine. There's no weird noises. Everything is totally fine, but then whenever you do these data logs and put everything under a microscope, you see all these wonky things going on, and it's really concerning, because obviously, now that the car is, modified and been tuned and all that stuff, Ford probably would say no to any kind of warranty stuff, and I guess you can't blame them for that, but it's a little nerve-wracking, and a few people have asked me, about getting a tune for their car and stuff, and something that I've been learning here over the past couple of years is that only tune a car, especially don't modify a car at all, period, unless you have the cash set aside to fix it, or unless you have a second car and it's not a big deal if it's not running right or something's screwed up, and you have a backup car and it's just a toy project, that's fine. But if it's your sole transportation and you're not, you don't have tons of money in the bank just sitting around in case something blows up, it's really, really stressful modifying your car. At least for me, I don't know. I'm only 25, so I feel like it's not like I'm getting old and just getting sick of modifying cars, but it's really been really stressful trying to decide what's going on. And I thought everything was good, and that's the most frustrating thing, is thinking everything's good, and then all of a sudden it comes back that something's wrong again. And so I'm just going to keep troubleshooting. Adam is, like I said, one of the best out there in the EcoBoost industry. He knows his stuff really, really well, and the car is in very good hands with him, looking everything over. But it just really stresses me out, and this just adds on to the fact that, I do enjoy this car. I love the Mustang, but, I'm not in love with this engine to begin with, and if I was in a financial position to upgrade to a GT, I totally would, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards, so I can't just ditch this and just dump it for a GT, and so I don't know. I've been contemplating several different things of what I want to do, but it sucks because I'm so excited about, I have some mods on the way that are coming that are going to be really exciting, and I have a vision, a plan for this car as far as what I want to do with it, and it's going to be really cool and really awesome if the car decides to play ball, but the car just will not play ball. Anyway, I don't want to keep ranting, but as you guys can tell, I'm pretty stressed about this, and then, like I said, there's a lot of other factors as to, that are stressing me out that I can't really go into, because I have exciting stuff on the way that I can't talk about just yet. I'm not at liberty to talk about them, so I can't fully explain my complications at the current moment. But like I said, I just don't want to put on a smile and pretend like everything's okay, so I want to let you guys know I'm stressed, so I'm just, hopefully time will tell as far as what ends up happening and what the proper solution is for all of this, and what the best course of action is. But things are just just a little bit frustrating right now. So anyway, I will send it back to me at the news desk. There's lots of exciting news in the car world this week, so I'll send it back and you guys can hear all about that. Right, for this week's news, the first thing is Jaguar has officially unveiled the 200-mile-per-hour F-Type SVR. And yes, they've announced is that it will hit 200 miles per hour, and that they showed us this one picture. And you can see it's obviously more aggressive, like all the spy shots we've seen recently. And so there's all kinds of rumors about how much horsepower it's going to have. It's been anywhere between 565 horsepower and 600 horsepower. So anywhere in between there is possible, and so it's gonna have to have a good amount more for it to be able to hit 200 miles per hour. So but yeah, they're saying it should be a well under 4 seconds 0 to 60 sprint, and should be a very impressive car. We'll see all the angles and all the details on it at the Geneva Auto Show here coming up very soon. Next is Porsche has officially unveiled their new 718 Boxster, which is the restyled version of the Boxster here that they said they're going to be attaching the new 718 name to, and we know that they're now turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, flat fours. So I was really excited whenever they unveiled this earlier this week, because there's two different versions. The standard Boxster is going to have a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that does 300 horsepower, and they're also going to have a 2.5-liter flat four turbocharged engine. Let me know if this sounds familiar, and that makes 350 horsepower. So same engines as the WRX and the WRX STI, and then just obviously more power being a Porsche. But the best thing, now if you go on to the microsite that Porsche has for the new 718 Boxster here, there's an exhaust clip if you scroll down a little bit, and it sounds even better than a WRX STI. It sounds so good. It's very similar to that, though. It sounds like a Subaru almost. It kind of has a little bit of a V8 tone to it as well, so a little bit more muscular, I think, but it sounds fantastic. And after hearing that, this quickly jumped up to my dream list of vehicles to own one day. I mean, it's essentially it's a convertible, beautiful Boxster. I love the new styling, by the way, especially the back end with those new LEDs is very cool. But a beautiful Boxster that sounds even sweeter than a WRX STI, and you can hear it with the top down. Sounds pretty awesome, like this Subaru convertible that was never made, and I always wanted them to make. So very cool to see that. Other Porsche news is that the new Panamera was spied this past week, and it's still heavily camouflaged, can't see too much. It's going to be the same basic shape for the most part, most likely. But the interesting thing was the new interior, which they got rid of all the buttons that you normally would have in the center console of a Porsche Panamera, and instead they've replaced them with capacitive touch buttons that are a nice glass finish and looks really, really sweet. Hopefully it'll be easy to find and touch even while you're driving and whatnot, but very, very cool to see that. It's also going to have a large touchscreen screen that's like widescreen and looks very cool as well, and I'm sure there'll be all kinds of other cool developments in addition to that, but still very cool to see those. Who knows when we'll see that? Maybe at Geneva. Probably will be a little bit later though. Next is, remember last week I talked about how Opel was teasing a new GT sports car kind of concept thing. Well, they've taken the wraps off of it ahead of Geneva here, and it looks really cool. So it's called the GT Sport Coupe concept, and it's also going to come as a Vauxhall, but it's a smaller little car. I thought this was going to possibly be just, I guess an Opel version of the Buick Vista concept that we saw, but this is a lot smaller, more athletic, and it's also a lot slower. So this is going to have, I think they said a 1-liter, turbocharged 3-cylinder engine that makes 143 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Now this is just a concept car still, but they're saying it's like an 8 seconds 0 to 60 time if it were made in this exact, with all these numbers and whatnot. So it's a cool little like retro throwback to some of the old Opels and whatnot from the 60s. But it looks great. Just wish it had a little more power, I think. But of course, that most likely will not be coming to the States ever. But hopefully it'll be made for you Europeans at least. Next is some interesting news as this week. GMC has officially unveiled the Sierra All-Terrain X, which is a souped-up version of the Sierra pickup truck, of course. And it's got the knobby tires, the roll bars. It's going to have a 5.3-liter V8 engine. It's going to have a little bit more aggressive exhaust system, which gives an extra 10 horsepower. So it's bumped up from 355 to 365, and looks very, very cool. I'm just kind of curious as to why they made it a GMC, considering there's the Colorado Trail Boss that we saw at the Geneva Motor Show and whatnot. And so seeing all, the Chevy stuff, that, the souped up Chevy trucks, you would think they would have given this treatment to the Silverado, not to the GMC Sierra, because the GMC is the more luxurious one typically. But they did it. And anyway, it looks cool from the, couple of pictures here. And so great to see that. Another really interesting and bizarre thing I was not expecting to hear this week is that DeLorean is making a new DeLorean. So, now the new people that own DeLorean, they're in Texas. They bought all the remaining leftover parts whenever DeLorean folded. They were just sitting in a warehouse. They bought all the remaining parts, and so they've just been restoring DeLoreans over the past several years, and that's really great that they've been restoring them and bringing them back to life. But because there's this new law that was just signed in late last year here in America, which allows low-volume motor vehicle manufacturers to build new vehicles that are replicas of the old ones, and they only have to live up to the same emissions and all the crash standards for the year that the car was made. So technically, DeLorean can now make new replica DeLoreans, but they said that they are allowed to give them updated drivetrains and things like that. So what this all means, it was very confusing, and everyone was sending me text messages about this, because I think everyone knows that I love DeLoreans after my Back to the Future review that I did for Back to the Future Day last year. And so anyway, what we're hearing is that it's still going to have the classic Gullwing style doors, and it's also still going to have the 80s styling, or I guess be radical. It could have a little bit of a restyling. I don't know. It could just be rebodied, new cars with the old bodies. I don't know. But what we are hearing is it's going to have a new drivetrain and modern electronics, and it's going to be thoroughly updated, they said. So they said they're shopping around for different engines. It's not going to use the same slow engines before. And they haven't said exactly what engines they're looking at, except that they're currently considering a V6, which has somewhere between 300 and 400 horsepower that's naturally aspirated. And they said they're considering engines from 1 domestic and 2 foreign engine suppliers. So who knows what will end up powering this new DeLorean, but it should be actually faster and, at least have somewhat decent performance to match the awesome looks. And they're saying that these new DeLoreans could actually be on sale by next year, and that whenever they do arrive, that they could be around $100,000. So very expensive, but very cool to hear that, and I can't wait to see what they actually look like. That's going to be very, very exciting. Some not so exciting news this past week, though, is Ford has officially shot down the Fiesta RS rumors. So their chief engineer, Tyrone Johnson, I guess in an interview with Car Advice from Australia, he said, normally they don't even comment on rumors. They just let people guess and, keep people guessing. But he said that he's heard from several people they're not doing a Fiesta RS. He's like, I'm not sure where this rumor is starting from, but he's like, no one has any plans to do a Fiesta RS. You guys can all go forget about it, essentially. Which is really sad, because I think there's totally a place in the market for a Fiesta RS. It would sell like hotcakes. Should be fairly easy to do, especially if they keep the same engine and front-wheel drive and just turn the boost up, essentially. You could just basically give everyone what Cobb already gives everyone with a Fiesta ST, and just, make it an OEM version of that, and you'd be able to sell tons of them. But they're not doing it, but they're giving us the Focus RS, which we never got before here in America. So I guess we can't get too greedy, but would have been nice to see a Fiesta RS, but sadly that is not happening. So that has been confirmed, unfortunately. Other bad Ford news for those in Japan and Indonesia: Ford is dropping out of those two markets. They're pulling out of the Japanese market and out of the Indonesian market because sales have been terrible, apparently, which is really sad. I'm sure there's a few people in Japan that would have liked to have bought the new Mustang, and unfortunately, that won't be coming, or any other Fords. So Ford has officially pulled out. And all kinds of other interesting news as far as, I guess, product plans for car companies. First, Alfa Romeo has readjusted their product plans again. You know, they were planning on the new Giulia was supposed to already be on sale here by 2016. It's not yet. I think they're saying late this year is when it'll finally be on sale. And there's going to be a new SUV following shortly thereafter, which we haven't even seen yet or seen any kind of spy shots. So who knows what the progress is on that SUV. But we know the Giulia is basically ready to go. But they're saying that all the other vehicles, they were going to have like 2 small hatchbacks. Now they're only going to do 1, and they're going to add an additional SUV, which makes sense. And they're going to have 2 other specialty vehicles, whatever those might be. But everything's getting pushed back essentially. And they said it actually will be till after 2020 before all these Alfa Romeos are all on sale. So we'll get them, little by little here. But I wouldn't expect to see anything more than the Giulia and the SUV for at least a couple of years, which is unfortunate because obviously us in America here, we're very excited for Alfa Romeo to return, and so hopefully their plans go well. But they said the reason why they're scaling back a little bit is because the Chinese market hasn't been the best, and so that's kind of had made them have to pull back on their financing of the Alfa Romeo division. Another sad thing from the whole Fiat Chrysler group is it's been confirmed that they're phasing out the Dodge Dart and the Chrysler 200. And this came as a really big shock to me. Although both of these cars haven't been perfect, I reviewed both of them, I thought they were actually pretty good cars. And I know the Chrysler 200, at least around here, has been selling very well. But they said that they are killing both of them due to slow sales and simply because they want to use the plants for other cars. And so because Jeep has been exploding and also Ram has been exploding, they're allocating those facilities that produce the Dodge Dart and Chrysler 200. They said they're going to let them run their model course. So I'm not sure if that means that they're going to keep making them here for another year or two, or if this is the very last year and they're not making any more, effective immediately. I'm not totally sure based on, what I've been reading. But what we do know is that they're killing those 2 cars here in the near future, and they're going to be building more versions of the Jeep Wrangler and also, other Jeep vehicles and other Dodge Rams and things like that. So crazy to see that they're killing those 2. I know that, they had some quality issues with both of them, but still a really big shock. I thought the Chrysler 200 was beautiful. And like I said, they're really popular around here, so I'm really surprised. But yeah, so that's the other thing. Fiat Chrysler announced that they're going to be focusing on making more crossovers and more trucks because they basically said that they're confident that gas is going to stay cheap for a while. And so based on that bet, they're betting that no one's going to care about fuel economy. And so they're going for building tons of Jeeps and big Dodge Ram trucks. So that's what they're doing. That's what their plans are. They're going to use, like I said, those plants to build more Jeeps and Rams. So, interesting to see that. We'll see, how it plays out and if gas truly will stay cheap here over the long term. Other stuff, and we got some new spy shots this week. The first is the new Rolls-Royce Phantom has been spied. Now, it's still probably about a year or so away, but we can see this is the long wheelbase version most likely, but it's really big. Looks a lot like the regular, current Phantom, but it'll have obviously some updates. They said it'll have a big weight loss. It's going to be using a lot more aluminum and could also use some carbon fiber, which should obviously be just as luxurious. They said it's still going to have a V12 engine. They may do a hybrid version down the road, but they're sticking with the basic V12 because they made the assumption that most people spending $400,000 on a car probably don't care about the fuel economy, which is a pretty smart thing to assume, and I'm pretty sure that everyone would agree with them. And so, yeah, very cool to see that they're working on a new version of that. Also, another car was spied this week was the new Mini Countryman, which is also getting larger. It's longer and wider. It's heavily camouflaged. We can't see too much, but they are certainly working on a new one of those, and so cool to see that. Another car that's going to be getting an update is there's a rumor that a new Volkswagen Golf may come out at the Geneva Motor Show, and this would be the 8th generation, even though we just got the 7th generation here in America for the 2015 model year. It has been around in Europe for a year or two longer, I believe, and so it's due for an update apparently, and they said it's going to have new LED headlights and taillights, a newer front and rear bumper and things like that. They also said on the inside it's going to have an option for an all-digital dash gauge cluster, and they're also going to put the larger 9.2-inch touchscreen head unit that has gesture controls that they showed at the Consumer Electronics Show just a month ago here. They're going to be putting that in the new Golf, and I'm sure it'll roll out into all the other vehicles as well. But the new Golf will be getting it, and should be a really good update. And So yeah, and they're also saying that they could be doing a new Golf R420, which they would want to compete with the new Focus RS, of course, and things like that, and would have 420 metric horsepower and would be very impressive. But there's not as much confirmation on that as there is on the fact that we most likely will see a new Golf here at the Geneva Motor Show. Another Volkswagen car that we'll see at the Geneva Motor Show is the T-Cross, which is going to be a new little crossover that's supposed to be a fighter for the Nissan Juke and the Mazda CX-3, and should have radical styling and be a small, little crossover, and should sell very well considering how they're all the rage these days. Another interesting thing that's been rumored is that Kia is going to be debuting the new Kia GT in Paris. It'll be a production version of the GT concept that we saw a couple of years ago, which was a coupe Porsche Panamera looking four-door coupe, and they said that it's going to be in production by 2017, and that it's also going to have some visual cues from the GT Stinger concept, which was the coupe that we saw at Detroit a couple of years ago. And so we still don't know any details about it. It's just a rumor that they are going to be bringing a production version to Paris, and it'll be produced in 2017. So we'll have to wait and see if that actually turns out to be true. Another thing, now Ferrari has two news stories this week. The first is that there's going to be a new version of the FF. It's just going to be revised. We've seen some spy shots of it running around with, different front and rear bumper. I think they said it could actually have a slightly more aerodynamic roofline as well. And they said it'd probably stick with the V12 engine, but it'll just have a little bit more power to be up closer to the F12 Berlinetta. And, we'll obviously have the other usual improvements on the interior and whatnot. They also said that they could be doing a hybrid version eventually, or a cheaper twin-turbo V8 version as well. Both of those things seem somewhat likely, but for this rollout that'll be happening here in the next month or so, it'll just be sticking with the V12 apparently. So that's what we've been hearing about that. Some official news from Ferrari this week is the California T is getting a little bit sharper with a new handling speciale package that's going to be an option on the California T. And it's going to have a new mesh grille. It's basically going to have heftier springs and shocks and handle better essentially, but it's also going to have a louder exhaust system, and it's going to have a little bit more aggressive styling here and there as well. It's going to have blacked out exhaust tips and a new rear diffuser that's black, and other things like that. And so that's cool. We'll be seeing that at the Geneva Motor Show as well. So we'll hopefully see more of it then. It's going to be pretty cool looking, I think, with the black grille and a little bit more aggressive look. And the last supercar story and the last news of this week is there is the new Mercedes-AMG GTR that was spied actually running around. Now, we've heard they're going to be doing a GT3 style version of the AMG GT, and so this is obviously a much more aggressive version, large front air dam, and obviously be a little bit faster than the regular GTS. And so we'll have to wait and see just how much parts are shared between the GT3 version race car and this new GTR, road going version. But it's just probably still have the same engine and whatnot. And so yeah, but very cool to see that. Anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. I'll send it back to me in the car. So yeah, anyway, that's it for the whole weekly update here. I'm not going to do an acceleration here to end the video just because I'm really paranoid at this point. And so yeah, I just want to take it easy with this car, hopefully figure out what's going on, and hopefully there'll be better news next week. If I can get everything figured out, next week will be very exciting, as like I said, I got stuff in the works. But that stuff might all be put on hold if I can't get this figured out. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.